Let's talk about how Nigeria became a nation. Back in 1912, the British decided to make one big colony out of many different groups of people. These groups, like the Hausa Fulani, Yoruba, Igbo, and Ijaf, had their own ways of life and dreams for the future. In 1960, after many years of fighting for their freedom, Nigeria finally gained independence from Britain. But things weren't perfect. The new nation had to find a way for all these different groups to live together peacefully. The first few years after Nigeria became independent were tough. The country faced numerous challenges as it tried to find its footing as a new nation. There were lots of problems, and people from different groups didn't always agree. Ethnic tensions were high, and the political landscape was unstable. In 1966, a group of soldiers, mostly Igbo, took control of the government. This coup was seen as a turning point in Nigerian history. They said they wanted to stop corruption, but many people thought they just wanted power for the Igbo people. This perception led to widespread distrust and anger. This made things worse, especially in the north. The northern regions felt marginalized and tensions escalated rapidly. Things got so bad that many Igbo people had to flee their homes. The violence and fear forced them to seek safety elsewhere. In the eastern part of Nigeria, a leader named Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu decided they wanted to become their own country. He believed that the Igbo people needed a safe haven. On May 30th, 1967, they declared themselves the Republic of Biafra, and a terrible civil war began. This conflict would go on to have devastating consequences for the entire nation. The Nigerian Civil War was a terrible time for the country, marked by intense conflict and suffering. It was a fight between people who were once neighbors and friends, tearing apart communities that had lived in harmony for generations. The war, which lasted from July 6, 1967 to January 13, 1970, was full of violence and sadness, leaving a lasting impact on the nation. The Nigerian government wanted to keep the country together, so they fought hard against Biafra, deploying significant military resources. The people of Biafra, on the other hand, fought for their freedom and independence, driven by a strong sense of identity and purpose. One of the saddest things about the war was that food was used as a weapon, leading to widespread malnutrition and suffering. The Nigerian government stopped food and medicine from reaching Biafra, and many people, especially children, died from hunger and sickness, creating a dire humanitarian crisis. The world was shocked by pictures of starving children, which highlighted the severe impact of the blockade and the urgent need for international intervention. The Nigerian Civil War ended on January 13, 1970, when Biafra surrendered. This marked the conclusion of a brutal conflict that had torn the country apart for nearly 3 years. The war had a lasting impact on Nigeria, leaving deep scars on its people and infrastructure. Cities were in ruins, and the economy was in shambles. It's estimated that between 1 and 3 million people died, most of them Igbo civilians who starved to death. The famine was a direct result of the blockade imposed during the war. After the war, the military ruled Nigeria for many years, leading to a period of political instability and authoritarian governance. The Igbo people, who had suffered greatly during the war, faced discrimination and marginalization in the post-war period. Their struggle for survival continued even after the conflict ended. But even in this dark time, something good happened. Amidst the chaos and suffering, acts of kindness and bravery emerged, showing the resilience of the human spirit. A group of French doctors and journalists were so moved by the suffering they saw in Biafra that they started an organization called Médecins Sans Frontières, or Doctors Without Borders. They aimed to provide medical aid to those who needed it most, regardless of political or religious affiliations. Doctors Without Borders helps people in need all over the world, no matter who they are or what they believe. Their mission is to offer medical care in the most challenging and dangerous environments. Their story reminds us that even in the worst situations, there is always hope and compassion. The legacy of Médecins Sans Frontières continues to inspire and bring relief to countless lives across the globe.